Hey everyone, it's your favorite sister-in-law. I'm O'Ramy and I'm a current 0L starting law school in the fall. This is my first video and I felt really compelled to make this channel because I just feel like I haven't even stepped into law school and I've already been through so much with this process. No, I'm just serious. It's been a lot. So if I can be of any help to someone coming after me, I hope I can do that. So first and foremost, every single thing has a deadline. And it's probably earlier than you want it to be. So what I would say is just always be on top of everything and try not to procrastinate at all because everything in the law school process is time sensitive. So I'll tell a story about the first time I realized that really everything has a deadline attached to it. It was the day before my first LSAT. I had my LSAT admissions ticket printed a month before or so and kept in some special drawer in my dorm room, and the night before I go to just look at it and read over it and everything again, and I see that it says you cannot use the same picture that is on your photo ID that you'll be using to enter the test center as the picture that is printed on your LSAT admissions ticket. And that is exactly what I had done. I thought, okay, no problem, I'll just change it. I go, I type everything in, I choose a really nice headshot, and then I see that the deadline to change your picture was 3 weeks ago. So I did the only logical thing, which would be to just start freaking out. I was like, oh my gosh, am I not going to be able to take the test? I've studied for this for months, and how could I make, a mistake like this, and why can't I change it, So I was really stressed. Everything ended up working out. In the end, I actually just printed a picture of the same exact size as it would be on the ticket, and I brought that in with me as well as my passport, and I just showed them, and the lady allowed me to take the test. The real takeaway from that was just that there's nothing that doesn't have a deadline. Literally every single thing has a deadline. So you really just need to make sure that you're staying on top of everything. And if it ever comes to your mind, like maybe I'll change this later, or maybe I'll do this later, try not to do that. Try to really, do everything as soon as you can. And if not, at least look up the deadlines and look at when that deadline is, set a reminder so that you don't end up being behind deadlines that you want to be in front of. So number 2 is plan for everything, because you just don't know what's going to happen. I would say, for example, if you think that you might need 3 months to study for the LSAT, plan for the occasion that you might need 5. If you think you need 5, plan for the occasion that you might need 8. If you think you only need 2 letters of recommendation, plan for the occasion that, one doesn't work or something happens and you need 4, or another school needs another one. Just plan for the unknown, because there is a lot of unknown, and it's always better to have had those plans in place beforehand rather than going back afterwards, because like I said, there's always a deadline. Always plan for excess rather than, just write what you need, because it's always better to have an extra one that maybe you don't use, or to have an extra month that maybe you don't need, rather than, falling short. So number 3 is a big one. Ask and you shall receive. It never ever hurts to ask. Ask for a scholarship, ask for fee waivers, apply for the LSAT fee waiver. If you don't get it, you don't get it. There's no reason not to ask. And this is something that I just didn't know. When I first really knew about fee waivers and stuff like that was after my first LSAT. I started getting a whole lot of fee waivers from basically all my dream schools. It was actually really great that you don't always have to pay for your application fee. So I was getting all of these, merit-based fee waivers. After a while, only one school on my list that I didn't have a fee waiver from. So, and there are some schools that actually don't give out fee waivers without you asking. You have to actually, send an email to a specific email that's usually about waivers or something like that. And so I did that for one school. I called and asked about, do you guys have any fee waivers? Da da da. And they told me, yeah, we do, but the deadline has passed. So really, you guys, the first one, every single thing has a deadline. So you want to make sure that you ask for these things in a time appropriately. You don't have to wait to have your LSAT taken. They might give it to you based off of your GPA. You just don't know. So ask as early as you can. And if there's something that you need, you can always ask again. But just ask and ask early. I know people who've gotten scholarships just based off of asking with anything that you want. You have a better chance of getting it if you ask for it. Okay, so the next thing that I would say, I hope this doesn't sound self-contradictory, but do things on your own time. You guys are like, girl, you just said there's deadlines. Yeah, there's deadlines, but you need to do what you think is the best for you while paying attention to all these deadlines. So like, for example, the biggest thing that I'm really talking about is with the LSAT. Feel okay to take your LSAT even if you're not as ready as you feel that you need to be. Because at the end of the day, honestly, you're never gonna feel completely ready. You are always gonna feel like, you could study more. But even if you don't feel ready, it's okay to still take the LSAT. On the other hand, if you don't feel ready, it's okay to push it back. Honestly, I've done both, and I think those were, two things that weren't mistakes. Those were two things that I'm glad that I did. So I'll tell you guys another story. So with my first LSAT, I think I was very, very ready. I had studied so much. I was putting in like 11 hours some days, 7 hours most days. I think I'll do another video with how I was able to study like that and how I made, many hours feel less and that whole process, because that's a whole nother thing in itself. I think I was very ready, but I basically had a nightmare of a day before my LSAT. Like I briefly mentioned earlier, I had stayed up until 4 a.m. at night because I was scared about that admissions picture. And I woke up at 6 a.m. in the morning when my LSAT was at 8, so I really only got 2 hours of sleep. And then by some, terrible chance, I was very sick that day. But I had decided that, no, I'm going to take this LSAT. I've decided that I'm going to take this LSAT, and nothing is going to get in the way of me taking this LSAT. So I took the LSAT, and I did well. I didn't do what I felt was, the best that I could do, but it was definitely enough to get me all of these merit-based fee waivers and for me to feel like, okay, at least I have a real score that is under my belt and that is competitive for the schools that I'm wanting to go to. So I was still happy that I took that test. Immediately afterwards, I knew that I was going to retake it. So because I felt that I could do better because I wasn't in the best mental frame. I would have taken the one that was the month right after it, but of course there was a deadline, so I couldn't sign up for that one. I had to sign up for the November, and November was the same exact time as everything that was ending for me with school, so my finals were also at that same time. But I signed up for that one, I paid for it, and that's the one that I had planned to take. But as the LSAT was getting closer, I was realizing that, look, my grades are really important to me, and I can retake an LSAT, but I cannot retake my GPA. I can push back an LSAT, but I cannot push back my GPA. So I pushed back that LSAT, and even though it felt so late. You know, everyone says, you know, don't take the LSAT all the way in January if you're applying for that cycle, but that's what I did because I felt that it was the best thing for my applications. And I stopped studying for the LSAT for about a full month and just made sure that I tied everything up with a nice bow, with me graduating that semester and everything. I just made sure that my GPA, you know, didn't drop and everything stayed intact and was good. And then as soon as I was done with that, I took about 3 weeks and I studied for my next LSAT. And, you know, everything worked out. And everyone is always like, you know, you, and it's not even everyone, it's a lot of times yourself. You don't want to push back an LSAT, or you feel like you have to push back an LSAT because you're not ready, or this or that or the other. And at the end of the day, either it's okay. If you want to push something back and you really feel that it's best for you, do that. If you feel that you're not ready, that's okay too. You don't have to be ready. You'll still be okay. So the motto of this rule is you'll be okay, you know. Regardless, just do what you feel like is best for you at that time. And of course, do it in accordance with deadlines. So the fifth and one of the biggest rules, I think, is that all advice is not for you. You're going to read a lot of information and you're going to hear a lot of information. Some of it will be hearsay, some of it will be experiences. Regardless, not all advice is for you. You have to really measure who the advice is coming from and how much they know what you want to do. So for example, my dad told me, you know, go straight from college to law school, don't take any breaks, do not pass go, do not collect $200, this is not Monopoly, you know, go straight, you can do it. And that was good advice because he knows me, he knew that that's really what I wanted to do, and he knew how I could get there to what I wanted to do. So that was good advice, you know. My mom told me, don't put so much energy into a plan B that it can affect your plan A in any way. You know, put just enough that it can never affect the plan A that you're doing. And that was good advice. That kind of gave me some tunnel vision, knowing that I want to go to law school this year no matter what, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to make it happen regardless, and I'm not going to worry too much about a plan B because this plan A has got to work. Good advice. You know, she knows me, knows what I want to do, and knows how I can get there. And there will be advice from other people who haven't been through this process or don't really know what you necessarily want to do. They just know maybe what they think is best, and maybe that's what would be best for them. But just make sure that you're also always listening to yourself and listening to people who know what it is that you want and how you can get there. So for example, you know, a lot of people will tell you the legal field is oversaturated, or, you know, law school is so much loans, you know, almost like what's the point of that? If you want to go to law school, that advice is not for you. So among, you know, pre-law people will tell you all sorts of different things about the application process and studying and stuff like that that isn't applicable to every single person. I've heard people say, like, don't start studying too early, that will make you plateau. I don't think that's true for everybody. I think that maybe if I had started studying earlier, maybe it would have been easier. Some people told me, if you don't do an optional statement, or if you don't do the diversity essay, you're basically doomed. Schools are gonna not take you seriously because it's like you're not really completing the application. Just because it says optional, it's not really optional. And, you know, that advice might not be for you. I didn't do a diversity statement and I didn't do an optional statement, but everything worked out, you know. I was able to get into a dream school of mine that was top 14 with a scholarship, and I didn't do those things. Listen to yourself, you know, with that specifically. If you think that you can get everything that you want to say into your about diversity into your personal statement, or you think that it would be redundant if you did one if you've already talked about it in your personal statement, then listen to that. If you feel that in your personal statement you didn't get a chance to talk about this or that or the other, and it would be better if you had more space, then do that, you know. But let the advice from yourself and what you think that you need to do trump the advice that might be coming from left and right and the others. Take fact as useful and take in as many facts as you can, and then take advice and decide how useful it is for you, so that at least you've heard what people think, but you don't always have to listen to it. I think I told you guys a lot about everything that I did wrong. I did do some things right, so I'll probably, that'll probably be another video about the things that I'm glad that I knew and how that helped me. But I hope you guys enjoy this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and see you guys next time.